Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. So we are live and I'm gonna show you this. Um 9 real ghost stories that'll scare the crap out of you. Okay, so I'm not gonna say, you know, a swear word, but here we go. I was going to try and record this, but I just couldn't. But this is 9 real life ghost stories that can scare you. Um, I scream, you scream, we all scream. So we undies have a good scary story. So when we asked around to see if we knew anyone with real life spooky experiences, we weren't disappointed one bit. Enjoy your collection of ghost stories if you are brave enough to read on. So, for anyone with loud upstairs neighbors, my sister and I were staying at an old historic hotel in middle of nowhere, Montana. The building had been used since 1800s. My sister loves this place and has frequented it many times over the years. I was kept up all night by someone pacing around on the hardwood floors in the room above ours. Drives me crazy. In the morning, I asked my sister how she could sleep through it all, and she told me that upstairs of the building used to be a ballroom, but now it's carpeted and emptied. The hotel staff confirmed that nobody was up there, and furthermore, if they were, I wouldn't have heard heels on the hardwood floor. That's right. I was at a slumber party in 8th grade with a few of my friends when we decided to have a seance in her unfinished basement. We were having fun and giggling, and as we were trying to figure out who to summon, when someone suggested Jack the Ripper, a serial killer from the late 1800s, I immediately got a bit in my stomach. A pit in my stomach. No, I spoke up. We shouldn't summon something even. Something evil. That's right, called a man's voice from the other side of the cellar. There were no boys or men there. We were home alone. Another girl and myself heard it. I'll never be alone. I'll never be the same. Okay, number 3. Demon in the Dark. My family travelled to the south of France to stay in a cottage owned by someone my dad worked with, and the owners visited occasionally, but that summer it was free, and we had 10 days booked in there. After a long 2 days on the road, we drove down a steep driveway towards a secluded mill cottage. When the water wheel sat static along the side of the stone house, there was a deep cellar with stone stairs down under the wheel next to the house, and a small river circled the place. We went into the house and chose rooms, but being sat down in a small corpse, the house was draught and cold from the lack of use. We settled in and turned on all the heating on, yet the house remained cold and felt damp. The first night that we had set a fire in the living room was listening to a couple of audio books before my sister and I went to sleep. My parents stayed up a little longer then went to bed. Around midnight they both woke up at exactly the same time, and the door to the bedroom was opening slowly. At first they thought it was my sister, until they saw a large dark silhouette of a man framed in the doorway, standing stock still, just looking in at their direction as it was appraising them. After a short period the shape turned and started to move, as if it satisfied, and disappeared, but they looked at each other but didn't speak, and went back both to sleep. The next morning the house felt warm and dry, and sunlight was back through the windows, as if something had lifted and accepted them. They spoke the next day, and both agreed that although they were skeptics, it could have been anything other than that supernatural in the doorway deciding their worth. Full heart, wet hands. Okay, so I used to live at this address. The houses were built to house. The people building the railway in Derby in the 1800s. Okay, it was creepy house, really foreboding and everything. Like every time I washed my hair in the shower, every time I opened my eyes, I expected something to be there. Anyway, I came back from an afternoon lecture one afternoon, opened the door, walked up the first flight of stairs, and saw a wet handprint on the floor, a really wet handprint. I was a little bit very strange at that moment, but I didn't freak out. It was just out of the ordinary. So I walked out to see my housemate. I opened the door and he was on the phone to his girlfriend, not crying, but massively in distress. That was when the penny dropped. He then told me that he was walking up the stairs earlier carrying a glass of water. He felt something cold go through him. Almost a push, causing him to drop the water. He picked up the glass and ran upstairs to his room. The water falling from the glass had created a handprint on the floor, literally a handprint. Every digit was in proportion. I did freak out at that moment as I put two and two together. I told everyone to get out of the house, which we did, but then sheepishly returned after an FIFA session around another friend's house. It was generally terrifying, might not sound, but it was. And all true. If someone offered me $50 to go back and spend the night there by myself, despite the fact I lived there for a year and almost innocent, I wouldn't. There was something there that didn't want six college guys there. Unfortunately, I don't have a photo of the handprint. This was in 2012, prior to the culture taking a photo of a selfie of literally everything I wish I had. So, yeah, you guys seen everything. And, house for sale, currently occupied. When I was a kid, we lived in a haunted house. Strange things happened all the time. For example, my dad and I were alone in the kitchen one day making a snack. We put the plate on the kitchen counter and walked away to the fridge. We got what we wanted out of the fridge and turned around to walk back to the counter, and the plate flew off the kitchen counter and broke on the floor. My dad tried to calm me down by saying the plate must have been blown off the counter, but let's face it, the plate wasn't near the edge of the counter, and there was no windows or doors open. No one else was home. Weird. I also woke up to an old lady standing by the bed at more than one occasion. I told myself I was dreaming. This part might be dark, but here is the rest of the story. Years later, I looked up the address and found that an old couple lived there for many years before we moved in. Apparently, the house was broken into and the old woman was raped and murdered. And the old man sold the house and moved. We were first occupants since the incident. We only lived there for about a year, and my parents swore we moved so quickly because we got a better deal on another house nearby. But we knew it was because the house was haunted, and the priest they brought in blessed the place and told them we should move. No joke. Theatre. I hardly know her. In college, I was a part of a drama club, and we used 100-year-old opera house in downtown Bedford, Mears a theatre, so I was there alone doing work in the set of our next show. And of course, being in a theatre alone is creepy as it gets anyway. This theatre was old enough to have wooden walkways above the stage that went from side to the other. As I was painting, I could have sworn I heard someone running across the multi times. I tried to block it out, but that is nearly impossible. Just as I'm about to finish, I hear something fall from above the stage. Even though I couldn't find anything, it convinced me enough that I was done for the day. And apparently, there's a story of a ghost of an opera singer that died there in Halloween. Okay, that before that, I never believed in ghosts. Kitchen nightmares. Uh, okay, get ready for the story. I was closing up the bar one night after a long shift. As I was carrying a rack of glasses into the kitchen, I slipped on the wet floor. I had just mopped, fell to the floor, and let out an aghast "Arr!" Immediately after, I was sitting on the wet floor and hear a low-pitched moan. It was so audible that I actually thought it was a real person, and that was startling, considering I was the only person left on the door. That I stood up completely frozen and yelled, "Hello!" Again, immediately I heard the same low-pitched moan, except this time it was louder. Now I'm starting to freak out a little bit, but whatever reason, I decided to walk closer to where I was hearing the sound coming from, and I yelled very loudly, "Hello!" For the third time, I hear a very loud, low-pitched moan. That was it for me. I ran back to the kitchen, grabbed the biggest knife I could, and I found, and yeah, I grabbed my purse and ran out that door and never looked back. It was funny trying to explain on the it was funny to explain to the chef the next day because he was missing a knife during this morning prep. And the creepiest part, I came to find out that there was some sort of accident that had occurred in the restaurant years before with the son of the owner, and the word around town was that he died right there on the bar. Now, that is pretty freaky. Freaky, freaky, I say. Um, Roommates. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and my roommate is giggling and playing with my hair, and in the morning she doesn't remember. That was just a short one. That was great. That was just they needed to add a bit more to that because it was like short. Um, Please stop moving the kitchen table. My house was full of weird stuff happening when we first moved in. The kitchen table would move overnight. 12 to 18 inches. My keys would disappear and show up in the weirdest places, like my kilt trunk. My son Christopher went into the basement and heard things flying off the shelf at him, and he also saw someone walking on our wrapped porch once, but there was no one there. The most obvious thing was a few years ago, there's twice this happened. I was sweeping the kitchen floor, the door to the perch started shaking uncontrollably. It was like someone was trying to open the door without turning the knob. It lasted about 15 seconds. Keep in mind that this is a wrap around porch, completely enclosed. I knew it was bad because my dogs will bark at a butterfly flying past the window, or looked up at the door and stepped back. Both times it happened, I was doing the same thing about the same time at night. By the way, as a side note, I walked into the kitchen table one night while going to the bathroom. It was not the first time I walked into the kitchen table because it was moved. So I just said, "Please stop moving the kitchen table," and it never moved again. So that was pretty odd. So if you guys want to go and check these stories out, you can. Other than that, I guess I can keep reading them, but you guys get the whole idea of it. So, yeah. Thanks for coming in, and we look forward to more things like this. Yeah. Um, Thank you, and please subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that little bell so you know that when I post, you guys will get it and it'll come up, and yeah. So I will see you guys in my next live or video. Bye for now, everyone. Thanks for watching.